All right, let's take a look at a few news stories. So I was very surprised to read this. This is from March of this year, only a few weeks ago. Ukraine has been rolling out drones that use AI to recognize Russian targets and to kill them without a human in the loop. I didn't know we'd done this yet. This is a science fiction nightmare scenario going all the way back that you're going to killer robots that go around killing people, and then they turn around and kill the wrong people, and then you can't stop them, like the Terminator and everything else. And what's funny is the first Terminator movie dropped 40 years ago, and when the Terminator told Sarah Connor, "I'm a robot to kill people," she said, "Oh, I'm not stupid. You can't do that." He said, "Yeah, it'll be 40 years until you can do that." And now it's 40 years, and now we're doing it. Although he's not the Terminator, it's a drone, but still, that's the issue. So these drones are autonomous hunter-killers. They have, and the main issue is, if you don't make them autonomous, then they're remote controlled by radio, and the way you take them down is by jamming the radio. So by making them completely autonomous, you can't stop them by jamming the radio. I guess the only thing you can do is shoot it down. And so it's unstoppable, which is good if you trust it to actually find the right target and shoot it. But my experience with AI and for looking at Tesla devices and such, there's certainly a possibility that would shoot the wrong person. Of course, in war, you accept some degree of failure. I mean, anyway, I didn't know we had gotten here. A few years ago, there was huge arguments that this would be unethical and we should never do it. Now we've just done it in the war, and nobody seems to have really noticed or cared. All right, and here's another article on the same thing. The AI revolution is already here. This guy points out Ukraine has thousands of drones, including the Saker Scout quadcopters that can find, identify, and attack 64 types of Russian military objects on their own, and Israel has done the same thing. And they also use AI to target people. They fed in AI the identification of their Hamas leaders, and they rate them on a scale of 1 to 100 of likely Hamas membership, and then the AI determines how many civilians you are willing to accept to kill them, which can go up to 100. So it's AI is being used in military, for better or worse, in pretty disturbing ways. But of course, war is always pretty disturbing, and you have to remember the alternative is to send your human soldiers in there to die. So even sending a somewhat defective AI that will make mistakes might be a better choice than sending real soldiers in for a lot of missions. And these drones only cost like $1,000, which is pretty crazy. Now, I've been hearing about this stuff for years, this weight loss drug. These things are called, there's a term for them, it might be in here someplace, but anyway, there's a whole series of these drugs. They all work about the same way, and what they do is they slow down your digestion, and they slow it down by a lot. Normally, when you eat food, the food exits your stomach, into your intestines, I guess, within 30 minutes. But when you take these drugs, it goes to like days. Might not be able to find this, but yeah, GLP-1 is the class of these drugs, and a lot of people lose weight and they're okay, but some people, at 5 weeks in, he watched how long. So people taking this stuff had dramatically slowed digestion. It took 70 minutes compared to 4 minutes in the placebo group. So that's really a lot longer. And some people, it takes 151 minutes, more than 2.5 hours, when it's supposed to leave within 4 minutes. So it really has a huge effect on your digestion, and for a lot of people it messes, or for some people anyway, it messes them up badly. So that's interesting information. I'm not in a hurry to take those drugs. I'm glad other people are doing it. A message I sent on the 13th. If I've received an incomplete canvas, was having a hard time updating my grades. Well, I can check. I'll check it after the news here. All right, and good. All right, just 5 minutes. So, people that take stimulants like methamphetamine or cocaine, they are called not physically addictive, but people do get addicted to them in the sense that they take them too much, spend their money on it, go ruin their lives and such, and they haven't found any way to stop them. There is not any methadone or any drug you can take, but what they have found is if you just give them a cash reward for testing clean, that is quite effective. And people think this is like morally wrong or something, but it's quite effective. And the cash reward is not much, just a few dollars, but these people are often sort of homeless and desperate, and by staying clean, they then get a little bit of money and they can buy a hamburger or something and they feel better. The studies claim that this is actually quite effective and, of course, quite cost effective. It'd be quite cheap to do. So that's interesting. Certainly it seems to be less controversial than, say, needle exchanges and such, as a way to treat people that are on drugs. Anyway, let me get back to the list here. So there's a folic acid is added to bread. It's required to add to flour or bread in America because it reduces the risk of birth defects. So I think that's when pregnant women eat it. And now they want to put it in tortillas too. So we'll see. California may extend this to tortillas. Might be a good idea. I don't know. Might be generally healthful. So I've been reading about bird flu. The bird flu is spreading. Now it's spreading to the cows, and now states are quarantining the cows. And they say the risk to humans who eat beef is very low, but some experts say you shouldn't eat rare meat or runny eggs for a while. So I don't know how seriously to take this, and this is very far from a reliable source. But anyway, that's something you might want to think about. I didn't know there were ever wooden phones. Apparently, Motorola is bringing wooden phones back. Apparently, there were wooden phones in the past. So the back is made of wood, and yet the phone is water resistant and such. So that's a new one. Alibaba has cut the price of their cloud. I thought it'd be very nice. I tried to put some machines in Alibaba Cloud a few years ago when I was teaching classes in China, but I couldn't figure out how to get them from outside China. It seemed like you had to have an account inside a Chinese bank and you couldn't buy them from outside. If you can, it would be attractive now. The cost is much lower. And now they say, this is pretty important. Any of you done your hands-on projects, you will have found out 90% of students' problems are caused by networking. Virtual machine networking, the wrong address, a firewall, things like that. It's a huge problem, and I guess the same thing's true of cloud infrastructures, because Alibaba Cloud has made a new network tool that will measure the efficiency of all the network connections, and they say it cuts the engineers needed by 86%, which makes sense to me, because the problem is almost always networking, and you could probably algorithmically program a series of tests to find where the network problem is, and even identify it. So I guess I'm liking this a lot. I think you could write a simple series of if-then tests that could be run automatically that would isolate network problems and tell you how to fix them, and that would help a lot. Anyway, all right, PuTTY is the main SSH client used on Windows systems, although now you can do it with PowerShell inside Windows, but many people continue to use PuTTY, I think, and it turns out PuTTY has a serious cryptographic flaw. The PuTTY is using elliptic curve cryptography, which requires a nonce, a starting value that's supposed to be random. It's supposed to be 521 bits long. But the random algorithm, the random library algorithm, only gives you 512 bits of randomness. So they just settled for that and left 9 bits set to 0. Now, they probably thought that wouldn't matter, but that turns out to be disastrous. Having 9 bits of the nonce that are always 0 means that all you need is a few dozen signed messages and you can recover the private key. Elliptic curve cryptography is more sensitive to this than other forms of cryptography like AES. If you had AES, if you had a 256-bit key and you set 9 of them to 0, it wouldn't matter. Nobody would ever get in. But it's not that way with elliptic curve cryptography. It turns out to be fatal. So that's interesting, and it's been this way for quite a while. So probably a lot of people using these vulnerable versions of PuTTY. Anyway, that's all the news I wanted to talk about. Let me stop that.